Thank you very much. We call Harb number 2017-13, 210 North Wayne Avenue. That's continued from the last meeting.
Good evening. One of the papers was submitted incorrectly. I brought an addendum.
Thank you.
So we're requesting permission to build an addition on the back of the house. This is the current back of the house. The addition would be coming off this corner, as you can see in the render, and as well as the architecture drawings. The render is a little bit easier to see what it would look like aesthetically. It would include windows that would be simulated divided light, in the same as close matches to the original in terms of wood on the outside and colors. The gutters would be half moon gutters, same as the current house, and the shingles are a slate-like reproduction. I think we have all of those materials. We have all of those materials here. Simulated divided light windows that have wood on the outside and inside. While we're getting those, you have renders from the corner of the house as well as the front. I have some pictures here. The current front of the house. It's a little hard, but your copy is probably easier. You cannot see where this addition would be from most angles because of the current trees and shrubs that are there. There is an angle if you're basically directly in front of the house. That's this picture here, where you will be able to see it stick out slightly. There is a house down the road where there is an addition, 311 North Wayne Ave. This gives you I didn't obviously go up on their property and measure, but it appears to be roughly, from at least eyesight and looking at the render, a similar type of stick out. So you have, a good idea of what it would look like from the street directly in front. The windows would be casement windows. The house next door has what look like either very, very old or, potentially original. They're clearly not new windows, casement windows all along the front of the house. It should be noted that these windows are not visible from the street, only the back of the house. The foundation, as you can see pictured in renders, is stone. It's a stone facade. It's a 2-inch piece of stone that it's not the whole way, but it, for all intents and purposes, is stone. And another part that we should note here is that the roof is extended across the back, and it's turned into essentially a covered porch. And the original house, what you see here, this was a porch, as was this. So we're trying to kind of get back to what it was, a little bit closer to what it was originally, where there was a covered porch in the back.
I think you've done a very nice job with it.
Thank you.
And you are going to put a stone foundation on it.
Yes, it's a stone facade.
It's fine. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? In that case, I would like to entertain a motion for a certificate of appropriateness.
I second.
No, you have to make the motion. I'm entertaining a motion.
I motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness. Do I have a second?
Okay?
Thank you.
All in favor? Okay.
Thank you very much.
I would like to call next Harb number 2017-14, 525 Luella Avenue.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Springer, and I'm representing the homeowner and contractor for 525 Luella Avenue. And this is actually a new undeveloped property, and it was part of an original estate that has been since broken off and zoned as its own individual lot. So we have the original survey that's been done by Site Engineering Concepts, and we have a copy for you, just in case you want to look at the full thing. The survey itself, because it is a flag lot, is really difficult to read because it's so small, so we've blown it up for the purpose of the meeting. So we're going to use our blown-up copy so you can actually see what the property is like. So if you want to see the whole thing, I've got a figure number for you. So the homeowner would like to build a home here that is representative of the area. The house sits on Luella and Conestoga. So this is its location. I'm going to give it to you in two ways. First, if you're looking at this particular map, which is in your packet, you can see Luella Avenue here, comes to Conestoga Road. And at that intersection, you've probably already noticed before there are two houses there on the corner, or right there at the corner there's a few houses. But there's also an access road for this lot back here. So you can't see the house from the street, from Luella at all. When you're on Conestoga, you also can't see it during the summer months because of all the vegetation, but I have some pictures for you as well. So as you can see, the driveway would be coming from Luella. It has a very narrow lot, so your setback lines are really what's dictating the type and size and direction of the house. This is a blow-up of the house as done by the surveyor in the beginning of the project. So we've kind of gotten it bigger so that you can see the proposal of what we're looking to do. So here's the driveway coming up from Luella. They're going to have an area to pull in, back up. So we need to get the garage really as quickly as possible because, as you can imagine, with impervious surfaces from a driveway, we really have a limited option on where we can put the house before we run out of impervious surface. So the driveway needs to be sooner than later. Then you can see by the setback lines really what we're confined to. At its widest point, we only have about 26.5 feet of width in the house. And as you move back, some of that necks in just a bit, and the setback lines do vary as you move along the length of the house, which really starts to almost put things in its place on where you can have things in the home. So, I mean, the garage needs to come pretty quickly, or you won't actually be able to have any impervious left. So as you move along the property, you're behind the first house on Luella Avenue, and then as you move toward the length of the house, you have Conestoga Road over here. I have some pictures to show you of the lot right now.
I have one observation.
Yes.
Am I correct in assuming this, that with that garage, I believe it's three-car garage, is that correct?
Yes.
It'll be three cars?
Yes.
That you really have no room there on your site plan for a detached garage. Am I correct in assuming that?
This piece of property, the way we're doing the impervious surface, there will not be very much left for development later. The site engineering concept, who is working with the builder and the homeowner, has done a site plan where the garage is attached to the home. There is not an accessory structure plan for this home, and to be honest with you, just because of the allowable impervious and the setbacks, there really isn't much room for much else besides what is being put up today. Maybe a small expansion here or there with a patio, but not much else.
Okay. Just one other second observation. I hiked from downtown Wayne up into Chanticleer.
Yes.
So it's the first time I really went on Conestoga Road. Usually I take the Radnor Trail. And it was really hard for me to find this property.
Yes, you're right.
It really was. But I can see where it would be visible on Conestoga Road, but only to we hikers.
You're right, not to a
So-
fast-moving car.
Just an observation where at least that stretch of Conestoga, the medians are wide, which are very beneficial for hikers. And I was trying to imagine this house where if I was hiking it again and it was built, you would see it, but it'd only be like a very, very small angle of view, but you could
Yes.
see it. I was kind of surprised by that.
Yes, it's only a very narrow view, and right now, with the
Yeah.
way the trees are, you really can't see through it at all. And there are grown trees. It's not just shrubbery, it is actually tree trunks, too. We have a couple pictures that will help you. In your packet that were provided to you, there are views of the lots from different positions around the property. So if you reference the front page and you look at Figure 2, for instance, the view of a lot from position A, this is as you're standing where you'll be coming in from the driveway. And you can see, all you see around you is vegetation and some fences from the backs of some of the property. In particular, the one you're talking about is the view of the lot from Conestoga Road. So if you go across the road of Conestoga and look back, this is what you see. It's very grown in. There's a lot of vegetation there, and exactly. And when you see the plans, you'll see that the homeowner is just putting their porch on that side so that they also can see out into the rest of their property, because it's kind of the only usable area on the property that's outside, that has some space to it, some depth to it. But I'm sure because that is their porch side, they're going to be giving themselves a nice screening there as well, just for some privacy. So, but I can't comment truly on what their plans are for the entire site itself, as I haven't been involved in that portion of it. But it's a pretty cleared out lot otherwise. Any of the particulars with the site and approvals and shade tree or anything like that will be with the contractor who's developing the lot. But I don't think they have anything that I don't know if there's anything on record that they've had to do so far. No. Okay, so we've taken some pictures of the properties around the area, just so you can see the diversity, as you know, well know, living in South Wayne or North Wayne, the diversity of the homes in the Harb District. Just outside of their driveway, on the right-hand side of their driveway, is this home here. We don't have a lot of access, as you know, we're not going onto people's property, so we really try and take a view where you can actually see it from the street or the side. This is more the rear view, because the front had so much vegetation in front of it that you really couldn't see much of the house. So to give you an idea of the shape and style of the house, we had to take it from this passageway through here. As you work your way through, the left side neighbor, which would be right here, has a very different style home with some nice roof peaks. As you know from living in this area, most of the roof peaks are rather peaked. Every once in a while, you'll come across a ranch, like across the street, that has a little bit more of a lower pitch roof, a 512, that doesn't really fit into a historic home. It's just in the historic district. But then as we work our way through, we have the home behind the house, which is the one that's been for sale, I guess, for a while now. And it obviously has a lot of visual interest, some elements of a Tudor, a lot of peaked roofs. And then as you go across to some of the other homes in the area, you can see a diversity of other types of homes, such as the Queen Anne style, some Tudor, but a lot of Queen Anne style, which is on Lansdale and Runnymede, and as you dot your way through Midland Avenue. And as you know, with these style homes, everybody has a little bit of a twist on what they pull from these styles. You can have a colonial, which can have lots of different styles. Queen Anne's the same thing. One of the features that you'll notice about a lot of these homes is the way you enter the home is usually to the side in a Queen Anne style home, and you also have front porches, which is very similar to many of the homes in the South Wayne area, that they do have front porches. They often have a side or a back porch as well. They often have a turret, or they have some sort of really defined front peak on the home. And again, you can look through the rest of the pictures, or we could talk about them as you request, but I'll get to what the homeowner's looking to do. All right, let's get... All right. When I first met with the homeowner, she commented on how she really wanted to emulate some of the styles in the area. And in particular, we pulled out Chito pulled out two particular pictures. And I'll give you, do you have this in your packet? Okay, this was not part of the packet because it's not a house in South Wayne, it's just an idea. But it pulls from a lot of the different style of the homes. It's kind of a Queen Anne style in the sense that it's got a lot of the gable features, it has an entrance from the side, it has a front porch, and it has many of the features that she liked. So what we did is we took that, and we also took another house on Orchard. Let me get to that home really quickly. Here we go. Alrighty. So working with this style, she really wanted to copy something similar to this, which you see throughout the South Wayne area. But as you know from the site, we have a lot of restrictions. We can only be 26 feet wide and some change at the widest point. So that can make a style like this, or in the Queen Anne style homes in our area, very difficult to do, because by the time you get in the front door, you really can only have one room on the side. So we knew right then that in order to develop this lot, you kind of had to come in from this approach, where you drove in and that the front door was still offset, but you could take advantage of now the width being, you have more play on the left and right. You're not going to have a very deep house because, again, you only have 26 feet, but now you can get a hallway and you can get rooms on the back and you can get smaller, like powder rooms and things like that in the front, which you couldn't do if you did it the other way around. So we took more of this type of approach, but wanted to emulate a lot of the features. So to do that, when you drive up to the home, and would you like the survey out at the same time, or are you, okay, sure. Okay. Obviously, the scale's a little different. When you drive up the driveway, and you had missed this, Miles, when we first started talking, we have to put the driveway and the garage close to the driveway, and because of impervious surfaces, it really tells you where the garage has to be. It is an attached garage, as you can see, but because of impervious surface and setback, we really couldn't bring the driveway all across the front of the house, or we'd have no impervious surface left. So the garage had to be really the first thing you encountered. So we put a 3-car garage there. This is a family moving into the homes, and they've got several children, so needed a space for that 3rd car. The garage is attached to the main living area of the home. We have pulled in some of the things that she liked about the homes in the area, including the home in this picture, where we have brackets and we have an overhang of a roof and a nice deep rake. We have shingles on the gable ends, which is very typical of your Queen Anne style home, especially on the Lansdale and Runnymede areas. We also have done our best to give it some depth and dimension. We only have 26 feet to work with, so you know you can't get a gable unless you actually step the house back, because you have to have a projection. So you have to make the house narrower to be able to get that projection. So we worked with the layout of the interior of the house so that we could be able to go forward and backwards and actually show some depth, which is, again, what you see. You can see how they layer the front of these houses, where the front door is in one of the layers and the roofs layer upon themselves. And so that's the same thing we did here. We've got the main roof, and this is a layer on top of it. The front door is set to the side. And then because of the length of the house, we needed to introduce one other type of peak, plus we had to get a staircase in there. So we had to get the staircase out of the walkway of the house, so we used that as one of our projections. So this is where we can put our staircase, which takes it out of the walkway of the home. And we used a lot of the very same types of window styles that we see on the homes around here, where we have a plain glass at the bottom with the grid at the top. We're looking at very standard size windows. All of our first floor windows we don't have transoms on them, are the same size, and all of our second floor windows take one step down, not quite as tall because the ceiling height goes down on the second floor. And we've used that throughout. We've brought in some items that give it just a little bit of interest and wow factor, but again, sticking with some classic lines of this design of this Queen Anne style home. You can see that we took this detail with the bow arch top and we then had the double windows followed by a small pent roof and some casements, or excuse me, some transoms over top of some double hung windows. And that's exactly what we did here. It was her favorite feature of that house. So we've pulled that in here, and we like to use things more than one time. So we have that in some other views, and we also have it over the garage. We've pulled in, again, some bracketing, some pent roofs, and a front porch. The porch allows us a place to sit, but again, it's not too deep because we only have so much depth to work with. But it does give you a place to greet people. It gives you a place to sit a couple of chairs on the front porch. But again, the main porch is over on the side, which would be on our Conestoga Road side. Would you like me to see some of the other views of the house?
I'd just like to make a comment or two. After I reviewed some of the architectural literature on Queen Anne's, and it looks like this property is coming closest to the American version.
Yes.
So,
Definitely
putting it all
changed a
together,
little bit.
looking for patterns and things, I thought, okay, Queen Anne, and I thought, number one, asymmetrical. I think you've captured that in your plan. Number two, the porch. It seems to me that for a Queen Anne, the porch would be substantive and there would be a roof on the porch. But you have shared that there are constraints as far as space.
Yes,
to
we do have a
that.
roof, but it's only as deep as it can go before you have to have a place to get into the house behind it.
Okay, I understand, got
Yeah.
it. Lastly, I thought the whole tower thing,
I'm sorry?
the whole tower thing,
The
like the
turret.
witch's hat, as they
The
call it.
turret.
Yeah, with a couple of your examples, it's right there. Did you consider that, like putting in a tower?
No, usually they were used for staircases and things like that. They did not really care for that. We talked about that in some of the ideas. They really wanted to do a little more of a plainer version of this, so they didn't want to entertain that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I know. It's in some of them, but not all of them. Some of them have modified versions. We just did one that's in construction on Runnymede right now, and it looks like it's possibly looked like it has a half of one, but never really had much of a roof to it. There's definitely modifications where they don't have them at all. They have what looked like started to be one, but never developed at the top, and then they've got them where they truly have the cap on the top. So you're right, it's it's a really neat style. I agree with you. I think as well, I think they're really, from a structural standpoint, very difficult to build as well, and so they add a lot of cost to a project. So unless someone's really in love with that particular design, they tend to save themselves a little money in that area and stick with something where they're pulling in some elements, but not going too crazy on that. So,
I have a question.
Yes.
You didn't pursue a variance for the lot line?
No, they did not. They're trying to work within the existing, what they're allowed to do.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we were able to fit it. I think if we had gotten to the point where we just couldn't figure out how to lay it out, it would have been something worth pursuing. But I also think that just the budget of everything to build a new house today, I think it's trying to stick within something that's reasonable to build. So, yeah, we feel like we were able to do it. So I guess we'll find out. So, this is the rear elevation. Again, it is the rear. It's up against the old mansion that's behind it. It's got a lot of privacy. You really don't see it, but we still needed to be able to give some definition. I just didn't want to see one big roof coming across the back. So again, we did have an opportunity to step things back. Like the garage, as you noticed, doesn't come all the way flush with the back of the house, which allowed us to develop one more gable in there. It's just an attic space up there right now. Their intent is not to really develop that right now, but we did want to have some windows in there should that ever become a space we could have an opportunity for some egress or things like that. But right now there's not even a staircase that goes up there. It just stops at the second floor. But then other than that, what dictated the roof line was really if you look at it from a floor plan perspective, which obviously we can't do here at this meeting, you'd see that from a structure, we need to be able to support the roof on the exterior walls. So we look at it as, what is our main corridor, and then how do we project off of that corridor? So from the front, you really can't tell that it's a hip roof, but because we are able to step forward and backward with some projections. And it's just a little more obvious in the back because, again, it's the back of the house, nobody sees it, and it's a place to keep things simple and keep the structure simple. But again, the windows are placed based on where the bedrooms are, where the egress has to be, and also to make sure that they're pretty much the same all the way through. The only time they really change is where we have a little special tiny room or something like that. We just want to break it up. But we really only have 3 or 4 or 5 different window sizes. It's pretty much the same all the way through. When you're looking at the side elevations, this one's from the side of the garage. You can see we've implemented the arch top again. That also helps us with our elevation inside. You can see we've dropped the roof line down at the garage, kind of telescoping back from the front to draw attention to the front. But as we do that, we lose a lot of our headroom. So we've used these type of arched eyebrow style dormers to give us a little height in there and make it so that if someone ever wanted to develop that space or use it as a room, they could have the egress that they needed, but also have the headroom that they needed. And they like to use the hardy board shingles, probably a gray or gray blue. They're still working on the color, a white trim. And then the bottom would be a horizontal siding. And then around the foundation, there would be a stone veneer, like a pinnacle stone veneer, 2.5-inch lick'em stickum type of stone that would be exposed to above grade to cover the foundation, at which point we would then start with the siding. The other side elevation shows the porch side. This is your view from Conestoga if you did stand there and have a view at the house. And you can see that they have a chimney that runs up the side of the house. It will most likely be covered in a stone veneer at this point. The chimney services their family room. There is a low-pitched roof off the side, which a lot of the fronts of your Queen Anne style or a lot of the homes on Midland Avenue have, which is just a low-pitched roof, kind of a hip style. Then we have an outdoor chimney. We're really putting some type of outdoor fireplace. The outdoor living areas are pretty big now, so with that side being the side where they can actually see their yard, they're going to would like to build a fireplace out there. It would be like a wood insert fireplace with a stone veneer around it. And they're looking to do flagstone or slate as the flooring along the outdoor porch. On the front porch itself, though, they may use some type of TimberTech or some type of composite wood, because a lot of the front porches of the homes still actually had wood boards. They didn't necessarily have slate on the front. So we're going to probably stick with something like that on the front instead. I think that's really all of the elevations. Do you have any questions or particulars on what was done or why it was done?
My apologies for arriving late.
That's
I had to
okay.
deal with a little bit of a family crisis. I'll tell you, the major objections that I had, you've covered off on. The attached garage, understanding that the impervious versus non-impervious proportions need to be met in order to be able to make sure that you don't end up then having to install much more massive and expensive drainage. I hadn't been thinking of it. It's not within our purview. So when I was reviewing that, that immediately I was like, wow, that adds sprawl to this. It is a sizable amount of the house, and it kind of shocked me, but it makes sense. I was also a little bit concerned about having the additional chimney, the additional fireplace. I don't really have an objection to it, but when I was going through, I couldn't find other examples of that. Were you able to find any? Do you know of any other examples in the neighborhood, the
That's a
Queen
good question.
Anne style? Okay.
I haven't looked particularly for where they have put in the historic district a lot of these types of outdoor fireplaces, because they're usually in the back of people's homes. So that's the hard part, is knowing who's built them back there and when they've been built.
Except in this case, the back of your home is the only part that can be seen.
Oh, that's true. I mean, it is.
So-
I think that that's a
I
good
too
question.
think that it's a little bit of a jarring architectural note. You've taken such very good care, and it's such an interesting and in many ways appropriate design, but that's a very modern thing in a house that seeks to mirror its not very modern neighbors. And that's probably the only feature that I would recommend you reconsider. We as a body can't give you yay or nay on it, but
Sure.
that I think would be something that if they want to maintain a friendliness with other architectural styles, if you will, that doesn't really fit.
I understand from a historical perspective, we probably wouldn't see those type of outdoor fireplaces on porches. I think that's more of a modern-day convenience that many people are doing. In fact, I've found that just in our work alone, we've probably done 6 or 7 of them this year in all types of houses around Radnor Township. We've found that people are entertaining more outside than they used to and enjoying their outdoors, and it's become kind of like your extended living space. So it is kind of a marriage of the new American and the old-fashioned. Again, there are houses around them, are all different types, and I wish I could tell you how many places in this area have them, but I don't even know if Harb has the preview to even know that, just because does a fireplace have to go through Harb if they do patios and fireplaces? So we wouldn't be able to tell you when they've been done. Or
No,
how
that's
many
fine.
there
It's
are.
just,
Sorry.
we only comment really on the
Yeah.
parts of the house that can be seen.
Sure.
And this is the part of the house that can be seen. So it's just my comment, obviously Miles' comment also.
There are examples of fireplaces original to older houses in the township. I think there's one at Chanticleer. There's another one at Hereford,
Okay.
where the mainline school night
Oh, okay.
meets.
Sure.
Yeah, that used to be
Okay.
Truxton Hare's place. He was like big-time 19th century football player. Think of that. And also at the Willows Mansion.
Yes.
There's one there. It's pretty spectacular. So they do exist. It's just that I've only seen them on the older houses, and they're all outside and detached and away from the house, if this is helpful for you.
Well, one thing, when placing a fireplace, obviously we don't want the chimney to be an eyesore. So one of the things we did try and do is get it more than 10 feet away from the house. So right away, it can be as compact as possible. So we're trying to only put the chimney as high as the roof will allow us to be, which is why we put it over to the corner, because that gives you an opportunity to keep the chimney as low as possible. And then with these wood-burning inserts, they do keep it to a minimum. I definitely understand your comment. I really do. I think that what's hard is that from a homeowner's perspective, they want to enjoy modern conveniences. So I get it, though.
I certainly understand, but there are other heat-making things, especially because the roof line, as you have it drawn, is sort of at the same level as the upstairs windows. So with the right breeze, that could be pretty uncomfortable for the people who have their windows open. Do you see what I mean? It's low enough.
This here, we don't have any windows on this side.
On the side, but,
Mhm.
it's the same level. You see the
Yeah.
main chimney is way up above, so
Sure,
smoke goes up.
but it's like 20 feet away, pretty close to 20 feet away. Just as a note, because I don't want to forget to tell you this, and I have a copy, since we turned in the hard plan, the homeowner made a slight 1-foot adjustment in the dimension on it. So I brought a copy of the updated plan, and I just highlighted in yellow to the dimension change. They made the family room 1 foot bigger. And so I have a copy for you of that.
Wider, longer?
Longer.
Longer, okay.
Yes, after we turned in the Harb, we turned ourselves to the interior things, and they had a furniture conflict. And so they switched some furniture around, and we needed an extra foot. So what I did is I took the plan, and I took my highlighter, and I highlighted the dimensional change, which you can see highlighted here, and I'll give you each a copy. And then on the rear elevation, it added a window. So I figured that way. It was a very simple change, but I figured if you probably wanted to have it.
Thank you.
And I labeled this with figure number, just because I know you have to reference it. So that's your copy.
Thank you.
And here's the surveyor's, full-blown layout.
Okay,
from
thank you.
Before.
I want to thank you again for taking such thorough care with providing us with all of the details. Most people don't do that, and we are very appreciative.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, then since this is new construction, we can comment on the design and issue what we consider to be a certificate of appropriateness because you have taken very good care to do all that. But it is new construction, so our purview is not that great, just what can be seen from the street. So I will entertain a motion then to issue a certificate of appropriateness.
I second.
No, you make the motion.
I motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness. Do I have a second?
Okay, all in favor? Passes unanimously.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Oh, no, it's great. It's great, all good. Yeah, exactly. I'll wave. Tell me if you see me.
It's the next one is the.
Yeah, I think it's nice. I really was, you know, when they contacted me, I was a little nervous for something. I hope they want to build something that everybody's going to like. And they did. She was like, I love this style. I'm like, oh, phew. You're find them in South Wing. Good, we're good to go.
Thank you again. All right. We are going to move on to an item of old business, which is my report on the HARB ordinance update. Miles and I will be meeting tomorrow at some time mutually convenient to both of us. We seem to keep moving it around to refine the questions that we're going to ask to the commissioners. I sent an email to all of the commissioners asking them to meet one-on-one with me and or Miles. So we can't have more than 2 people because then we would have a quorum and sunshine laws kick in. So we're going to be meeting with Mr. Higgins at 10 o'clock on Monday. And Mr. Clark has agreed to meet with me at 7:30 on Wednesday. And Miles is not able to attend that, so if either one of you would like to accompany me, Miles and I are going to meet tomorrow to finalize the questions. Also, Elaine Schaefer has agreed to meet with me on Sunday, but we haven't set a time or a place yet. And I can email you all to see if anybody wants to join me.
I'd like a copy of the questions if you want to email.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
And then
So that's
from there.
That's my report. Again, I've reached out to all the commissioners. I've heard back from 3. And when I meet with Ms. Schaefer, I'm going to ask if she can put me in touch with the 2 people that will be running for her seat. So that concludes my report.
Well, thank you for doing all that hard work, Miles and Sarah. I've been delving into a couple other commissions that are out there, historical commissions, HARBs, and how they do things. And I thought, who would be the most restrictive in the country? Who would be the most narrow as far as interpretation? And as we develop this new HARB ordinance, I think it's something that maybe would be useful for us to look at, a very restrictive HARB ordinance, but they call it the Historical Commission. So when you have a moment, I would encourage everyone, just to go onto Nantucket Historical Commission's website. And they go into everything. And they go into color, specific colors, even Quaker gray, which I was pleased to see. And also to windows. I know that's come up before. And I think it's maybe a place we need to eventually go because of the concerns with replacement windows, and people have questions about their aesthetics. I get it. Nantucket goes into all that. So when you have a moment, it's really neat, and the colors are enjoyable, at least if anything, especially if you favor Quaker gray. Never thought I'd see that, but so I'd just like to share that with you all.
I think it's interesting to take a look nationwide. However, we should keep in mind that when we end up coming up with ideas and framing this, that our HARB is in existence because of Pennsylvania's guidelines for HARB. So we just need to make sure that whatever we end up adding in is legal for us to have within the Commonwealth. So, but those are very good points.
Okay, is there any other old business? Then may I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Okay, so moved. The meeting is concluded. Thank you.